welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're looking at the 10 hardest mini-boss fights across the Soulsborne series. These bosses are optional, but there are still some spoilers ahead. Consider yourselves warned.
Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Undead Giant, Bloodborne. Bloodborne to this day is still host to not only nightmares, but also some of the hardest boss fights in gaming history. And that extends to the mini-bosses as well. Some of the hardest encounters are found in optional areas though. Enter Chalice Dungeons, Bloodborne's secondary optional dungeons. In the very first one, you'll encounter the Undead Giant. It's the same type of giant as the church ones, but with a little twist. It just deals insane damage, especially for the level you'll likely be tackling it at. So, good luck. Stray Demon, Dark Souls 3. The Stray Demon is the first boss ever fought in Dark Souls, with it being the tutorial fight under the name Asylum Demon. We encounter it again, however, in Dark Souls 3, and in a pretty cool manner too. The third game in the series has plenty of nostalgia to go around, and Stray Demon hits just the spot. While its first rendition had a boss health bar, this one doesn't. You'll find it at the top of Farron Keep. In contrast to its first counterpart, this one is the upgrade, and is a bit more difficult and damaging, so you'll have to stay light on your feet. Chained Ogre, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. When Bloodborne came out, it answered the question of what would happen if you ramped up the speed of a Souls game. So what would happen if you ramped up the speed even further? The answer to that is Sekiro, and one of the earliest mini-bosses is the linebacker himself, the Chained Ogre. This guy stopped so many playthroughs dead in their tracks while tossing players around and dunking them out of bounds. Seriously, this guy had no reason to be this challenging right out of the gate. Iron Dragon Slayer, Dark Souls 3. As it turns out, one of the most difficult mini-bosses ever designed would be none other than Ornstein's long-lost cousin, the Dragon Slayer armor. Except here, we want to talk about the DLC version, the Iron Dragon Slayer. It's the exact same as its Lothric counterpart, except that it's permanently in Phase 2 and thus much more dangerous. Not only that, but you don't get the luxury of a proper boss arena with a fog wall separating you from the outside world. Instead, you might have to deal with the surrounding pedestrians, who might also want in on the action. Orin of the Water, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. If you thought Chained Ogre was bad, that was just a tutorial enemy for you to get your bearings with as the game eases you into the idea of dying over and over. Orin of the Water, however, comes at a point where the game expects you to be adept at parrying with lightning speed. Unfortunately, even the fastest man alive fails to parry Orin now and then. She's completely relentless, super fast and barely telegraphed, making her an extremely dangerous optional foe. Draconic Tree Sentinel, Elden Ring. Early in Elden Ring, we're taught that it's okay to return to a battle later. That's because the first open world boss is the Tree Sentinel, who is an absolute menace. But it turns out the game has way worse things to offer us, considering there's more of them and they're stronger. Meet the Draconic Tree Sentinel, one guarding Leyndell and one guarding Malekith. These two are hardcore. They took an already super difficult mini-boss and made it way harder. It's tanky, hits like a truck, and might one-shot you if you're not too careful. Mad Warrior, Dark Souls 2. Dark spirits in Souls games have been relatively troublesome, but none of them even come close to the Mad Warrior. He's a dual-wielding bleed menace. For him to even appear in your game, you have to be in the Bellkeeper's Covenant, where you'll find him near the Bell Lever. Dishonourable as he is, he will shamelessly chug Estus as he gets low on health. For the prepared player with high enough poise damage, he won't be so bad. But for everyone else, get ready to face hell. Bloody Crow of Cainhurst, Bloodborne. Now that we finally have a few more eyes on the inside, as Master Willem would say, let's return to Bloodborne. Throughout the game, we may optionally meet and follow Eileen the Crow's questline as we aid her in hunting other hunters. It doesn't take long, however, before we find her beat up outside Amelia's boss room, thanks to the Bloody Crow of Cainhurst. This is, without a doubt, the hardest PvP-esque mini-boss in the Soulsborne franchise. He uses a Chikage and will perfectly parry you for attacking more than twice, which results in a one-shot. Kudos to you if you succeeded in besting him. Black Knight, Dark Souls. Speedrunners will be extra familiar with this guy and the pain he brings. There are a few of them in the first Dark Souls, and the most ideal speedrun involves defeating one early to get your hands on their halberd. But these things are actually extraordinarily difficult to fight. Their Silver Knight counterparts were already pretty tanky, but the Black Knight is on a totally different level, dishing out and taking punishment like few can. They've broken the spirits of many a chosen undead along the way. Crucible Knight, Elden Ring. Elden Ring gave us hundreds of field bosses, and yet most of them cannot compare to the monster that is the Crucible Knight. How come one of the most difficult fights in the game comes from this guy of all things? Of course, they aren't Malenia, but they're really close. While we do get the occasional Crucible Knight with a boss health bar, the majority of them are just messing around in random places. The ones in Farum Azula are nearly impossible to kill. They just don't let you breathe. When you see those golden wings appear, duck and cover. Which mini-boss was the hardest one for you? Let us know your top picks down below in the comments section.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, there's more where that came from.